Before we start, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Not because this is a reaction video or a takedown, but because this channel exists to, well, separate real, historically proven survival knowledge from those television-driven myths. If you care about what actually keeps people alive when cameras, producers, and extraction teams disappear, this is where that conversation happens. Now let's be clear about something important. Bear Grylls is not a fraud. He understands human limits, resilience, and improvisation better than most people will in a lifetime. His biggest contribution was getting millions of people to care about survival at all. That really matters. But television survival is still television, and when survival is compressed into a 40-minute episode, certain ideas become exaggerated, simplified, or honestly outright misleading. History, long-duration hardship, and real-world survival outcomes tell a quieter, less dramatic story. Bear Grylls had the right instinct. What he often got wrong was emphasis, and in survival, emphasis is everything. The first mistake is treating survival as constant movement instead of strategic stillness. Television survival rewards motion. Walking, climbing, descending, and pushing forward make good viewing. Historically, movement killed more people than it saved. Explorers, soldiers, and stranded travelers learned quickly that unnecessary movement burned calories, increased injury risk, and accelerated dehydration. In real survival scenarios, the safest option was often to stop, stabilize, and make the environment work for you. Camps were improved slowly, firewood was staged, water was secured before any travel decisions were made. The goal was not progress, it was sustainability. When you watch survival content, the unspoken message is, well, keep moving until you find something better. But history actually teaches the opposite. Survive where you are until moving is truly unavoidable. The second mistake is overvaluing food acquisition in the early phase. Bear Grylls famously eats things most people would never touch. It proves adaptability and mental toughness, sure, but what it doesn't reflect is how rarely food was a priority in real survival timelines. People survived days or even weeks without food far more often than they survived without water, warmth, or rest. Chasing food early leads to wasted energy, poor decisions, and exposure. Historical survival accounts consistently show that people who focused on hydration, shelter, improvement, and rest lived longer than those who immediately hunted or foraged. Food matters eventually. It rarely matters first. Survival television compresses timelines in a way that, well, distorts this priority. The third mistake is presenting extreme techniques as normal solutions. Drinking urine, skinning animals with bare hands, and descending cliffs with improvised gear make for unforgettable scenes. They are also edge case actions, not baseline skills. History shows that survival was built on conservative, repeatable behavior, not heroic improvisation. People survived by doing boring things well. They reused tools, avoided injury, stayed dry, and followed routines. Extreme techniques were last resorts, not standard operating procedures. The danger isn't that these techniques exist. It's that viewers walk away believing survival requires constant extremity, when in reality it requires restraint. The fourth mistake is underplaying long-term fire management. Fire on television is often treated as a moment, spark, flame, success. Historically, fire was a system. People selected locations carefully, managed smoke, preserved embers, and rationed fuel. Losing fire was catastrophic, not inconvenient. Bear Grylls demonstrates fire starting brilliantly, but survival is about keeping fire alive over days and nights, especially in wet or cold environments. That requires planning, patience, and discipline, not just ignition skill. Real survival favors people who think about tomorrow's fire while tending today's. The fifth mistake is minimizing the role of injury prevention. Survival television shows injuries being treated. History shows injuries being avoided. A twisted ankle, infected cut, or strained knee ended journeys and killed people far more reliably than starvation. Most historical survivors moved slowly, rested often, and avoided unnecessary risks. They didn't jump ravines unless forced. They didn't climb unless required. The body was treated as a limited resource, not a tool to be pushed for drama. This is where entertainment diverges sharply from reality. Survival is not about toughness, it's about longevity. The sixth and most dangerous mistake is framing survival as a solo endeavor. Bear Grylls often survives alone because that's how television structures the story. Historically, survival was almost never solitary. Groups shared labor, knowledge, warmth, and psychological stability. Even one additional person dramatically improved survival odds. Isolation increases cognitive errors, emotional volatility, and risk-taking. Communities survived winters, sieges, and disasters because they worked together, not because individuals triumphed alone. The lone survivor narrative is, really compelling, but honestly, it's also historically rare. Bear Grylls inspired curiosity, resilience, and, respect for nature. That is his lasting contribution. But if you want to understand survival as it actually worked, across wars, migrations, shipwrecks, and frontier life, you have to strip away the camera logic and return to the historical record. Survival isn't dramatic, it's methodical, it's quiet, and honestly, it favors people who do less, not more. If you value this kind of grounded, historically honest discussion, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who thinks survival is about stunts instead of systems. History already answered these questions. We're just listening to it again.